I did a survey in our Facebook group leading into this event, and it was overwhelming that this group, and I would agree with this, wants to spend more time working on that listing presentation and securing new business. Because I think we'd all agree that if you do the work necessary that leads you to an appointment, it's really all for nothing. If you can't go to an appointment and compel a seller to sign a contract, your days in this business is limited. Would you guys agree? All right, so let's talk about winning the listing. So there's a study by NAR, and whether you're a fan or not, they are our governing board, right, or our association, I should say. And they did a study. They said that the average real estate agent has a 25% conversion ratio, meaning out of every 4 listing appointments we go on, we get one seller to say, yes, I'd like to hire you. Well, I'm going to walk you guys through a process over literally the next 60 minutes that's going to help you close 90% of your listing appointments. And most of you in this out there right now are saying, yeah, right, 90%. Even my coaching clients right now, I'm going to show you guys something I've never shown you before that's going to help you get a 90% closing ratio. You guys good with that? Lee Jennings, you okay with that? I've been looking for you all day. I've been looking for a hug all day. Just can't find you. There we go. All right, cool. So getting sellers to hire you, trust me when I tell you, has a lot more to how you make them feel versus what you say, okay? You heard a lot of agents on stage talk about that. We're going to talk about it now. We're going to do a little exercise because it's after lunch and I need to do some things or you guys will fall asleep on me. Then I'll make you guys do jumping jacks and burpees. You guys don't want to do that. You all told me that, so we're going to do something a little different. I need 2 participants. Look at it. You don't even know what I'm going to ask you to do. Look at that. That was easy. Let me explain to you what you're going to do first, okay? You're going to come on stage. You're going to do burpees in your underwear. So I need 2. Oh, we still got some people. Okay, good. Stephen Vay? God, no. Exactly. So let me explain to you what we're going to do. To really talk about this point and how important it is when it comes to making a seller feel a certain way that you're the obvious choice, that you're the absolute right agent for them, we have to get them to feel something. You can't go into a listing presentation, pull out your script and say, hello, my name is Brandon. Good to meet you. Like, you're never going to win, right? You agree? Say yes. You guys are all like, give me the script, give me the script. I'm like, I will give you the script, but please. Matt, you and I talk about this. It's like, I'll give you the words, but I need you to work on that delivery. I need you to compel the seller through communicating in a way that is with so much confidence and so much conviction that they can't say no. All right? So we're going to do a little exercise to prove how powerful this is. So we're going to take a scene from one of my favorite movies, Southpaw with Jake Gyllenhaal. Any fans? Who's seen that movie? Not one person except for me, so that's cool. All right, so like 2 of you. All right, so this is going to be even better. It's going to be even better. We're going to take my favorite scene from the movie. I'm going to have 2 people participate to come up on stage, read the script, okay? And I'm going to outline the scene in just a second. We're going to have you read the script in front of everybody. And I want you guys to hear how those words are delivered. And then we're going to watch the actual scene. And we're going to see if there's any difference on how you guys feel. Fair enough? So here's what I need. I need somebody to be Jake Gyllenhaal, who is going to be the dad. Okay? Go ahead. Come on up. Give him a round of applause. You see how you see how the hands just disappeared after I teed it? They're like, oh, fuck, I ain't doing that, you know? And then I need somebody to be Jake Gyllenhaal's daughter. Go ahead. It's perfect. Come on up. Give her a round of applause. Thanks.
I'm old enough to be the dad.
Yeah, exactly. Come on stage. I think you're on. Yep, there you go. So here's what we're going to do. You should have a microphone. Jen's going to give you a microphone in your script, okay? Okay, you're going to be the daughter. You're You're going to be the dad, okay? So I'm gonna come off stage, and I want you guys just to read the script and be your best actor that you can and deliver the script the best way you can, okay? I'm not giving you any coaching. I want to see what you guys got. Go ahead. Hit it.
Can we just get out of here?
Baby, the judge is fighting.
What?
I'm going to fight again.
Let's start over. Can we just get out of here?
Baby, the judge is going to do another month. Says it's going to be another month. I'm going to fight again.
What?
It's not professional fight or anything. It's an exhibition, but I'm going to fight again.
Can I go?
You know Mama didn't like you watching my fights.
But somebody has to be there.
It'll be all right, baby.
But I want to go.
I don't think I can work that out.
Then you can't do it. Dad, tell him you can't do it.
I've got to do it.
No, you can't. I have to be there.
I'm trying to get you out.
When?
Layla.
When?
Layla, I'm trying.
When?
I hate you.
I hate you. Why can't you just get me out of this place?
I can't.
I don't trust you.
Trust me, come on.
You should have been the one who was killed, not mommy.
Round of applause. That was so good. That was so good. You told your daughter you hated her? That was her line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was really good. That was really good. That was really good. Give him a round of applause, you guys. That was really good. Thank you. All right. So they did a hell of a job. Now we're going to watch paid actors who get paid millions and millions of dollars to deliver messages in a way that evoke emotion. So my AV team's going to hook me up, I hope, right? Did I screw this up?
Co-dug. It's not a word. I feel like I've heard someone say like co-dug, or co-dug's like a country or something like that.
Can we just get out of here?
Baby, the judge said it's gonna be another month. I'm gonna fight again. I mean, it's a charity thing, you know what I mean? It's not like a professional fight, you know, it's an exhibition. But I'm gonna fight again.
Can I go?
Well, you know Mommy didn't like you watching the fights.
But somebody has to be there.
Yeah, baby, I'll be okay.
But I want to go.
I don't think I can work that out.
Then you can't do it. Dad, you have to tell them you can't do it.
Layla, I gotta do it.
No, you can't. I have to be there, Dad.
Baby, I'm trying to get you out. Just
When?
Layla.
When?
Layla, I'm trying.
When? You! I hate you! I hate you! Why can't you just get me out of this place? Why do you not?
I can't right now.
You're not!
Baby,
I
please.
don't trust you!
Just trust me.
You
Come
don't-
on,
I'm
baby.
making promises
Come on.
and you don't mean them!
That's not true.
You should have been the one that was killed! You! Not Mom! You!
Come with me.
You! I hate you!
Pretty crazy, huh? Pretty crazy. Same words. Do you feel different between the first role play and watching the movie? A little bit. Not to take anything away from our actors in here. You guys did a great job. But when you watch that, like, how much does that move you? It's one of my favorite movies. Southpaw. Southpaw. It's a phenomenal movie. And the point is, I hope that you're really saying, holy shit. For the first time in my life, I finally understand what he's talking about. When I'm sitting here obsessing over the script, and I'm trying to tell you, if I gave all of you the same script, and you interviewed with the same seller, only one of you would get the listing. But you would say, well, I'm saying the same thing. Our actors said the same thing, did they not? They were the same words. But this movie made you feel a completely different way. This is the mindset we have to have when we go and interview, when we go meet with a seller who's going to pay you a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 commission. You have to make them feel a certain way. It's so much less about the words and a lot more about how you make them. You with me on that? Make sense? All right, so let's get into it. So there are two parts to the listing presentation to win the seller over, okay? There's the pre-appointment process, and then there's the presentation itself. We're going to start off with what you do during the pre-appointment process. Step number 1 is what we call the upfront listing agreement questionnaire, okay? Now, all of you inside of your folder should have a couple things, but one of the things you should have is what we call our listing agent playbook. I want you guys to go ahead and pull that open now if you can. And I want you to go to page 18. Page 18, and you guys can follow along, okay? And so when you have a seller that says, yes, I would like to meet with you, see what you can do to get our property sold, there's 10 critical questions we've got to ask that seller prior to the meeting, okay? So we did a little case study. We took 10 agents, 40 listing appointments. The agents that didn't use these questions had a 52% closing ratio, double than the NAR average, which is good, okay? The agents that used this had a 74% closing ratio, okay? I want to walk you through the questions now. So, question number 1, and this is really simple, just getting the seller's commitment. I have a few questions to ask you so I'm prepared for our meeting so that you get the most from our time together. Is that fair? Okay? And the way you position that is in a way that there's value for the seller. Okay? I got a couple quick questions, Marlene, that I'd like to ask you before we meet tomorrow afternoon so that we make the most of our time together. Is that fair? Marlene says, yeah, that's fair. Okay, cool. Question number 2. Marlene, when the home sells, where are you planning to move? Really simple. We're trying to figure out what is her plan. Where is she moving? Number 3, how soon would you like it to happen? Getting her time frames. Number 4, will you need time after closing to live in the home? Or are you just planning to move right away? Number 5, is it an option to stay in the home, okay? Maybe rent it, or have you decided that you need to sell at this point? What are we asking right now for the seller? What are we looking for right here? Yes, who said motivation? Yeah, here you go. Good job. So we're looking for the seller to sell us on their motivation. Because sometimes when you ask the seller this question, they can come back and say, well, yeah, I don't have to sell. If I get some ridiculous price that no buyer's ever willing to pay, I'd sell. Wouldn't you guys? Like if I overpaid for your house right now and gave you double than what it's worth, would you sell it today? Say yes. Of course you would. Everyone would. That's not a real seller. We're looking for a seller who has the right motivation, okay? Question number 7. I'm going to send you an email with a detailed pricing analysis. It's going to allow you to look at the comparable homes and my listing plan of action, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Can you review this prior to our meeting? Trust me when I tell you, when you do what I'm going to outline right now, not only is it going to save you time, it's going to help pre-sell the appointment so the chances of you getting the listing go up dramatically. Number 8, our meeting, Lee, should only take about 30 minutes. We're going to cover our pricing strategy that will cause your home to sell for a premium. We'll walk you through the numbers, and then at the end of our meeting, we can discuss if working together makes sense or not. We could talk about whether or not, Stephen, it makes sense to work together or not. We're setting an expectation of what's going to occur. Now, if it's not a real seller and you ask that question, what are they going to respond with? Not right now. Hey, I don't know, I'm happy to meet with you, but I'm not ready to do anything right now. Who said that? Raise your hand. Someone's pointing, he's like, I didn't fucking say that. Are we going to try this? The woman, I can't see. You got to help me out. There you go. All right, so I'm going to get you one too, okay? I can't see you because it's so dark out. But will you throw that back there for me too? Okay, so when you ask that question, if it's not a real seller, they're going to say, listen, I'm just not ready right now. That's what the question is designed to do, okay? Number 9, how much should I use for a mortgage payoff so I can work up the numbers accurately? How much do you owe roughly? I like using the word roughly with an upswing at the end. I see Marlene shaking her head up and down. That's when you say roughly, it puts a seller where they're less threatened. Because sometimes if you ask that question the wrong way, right, use the same words, ask the wrong way, why do you need to know that? Well, I'm going to sell your house. You want me to pay off the mortgage or not, right? So you have to ask it the right way. Number 10, do you have any questions for me at this time, or is there anything you want to make sure we cover when we do meet? That's question number 10, all right? These are the 10 questions you want to ask every single time you set a listing appointment. Number 2, we then want to identify the seller's personality style. All of you should have how many listing presentations? Who said 4? Raise your hand. Raise it high so I can see because I'm going to start throwing these out there. There's a lot of free stuff we're trying to get away. Who said 4? Oh, there you go. Boom, look at that throw. Oh, sorry. You okay? I don't want to knock anybody out. That'd be bad. All right, so you should have 4. We have to identify, is the seller a driver personality? Are they an analytical? Are they an amiable? Are they an expressive? Like my old self, like Joe Bennett. So if he's a driver, if the seller's a driver, what do drivers want? They want to be right to the point. Don't BS me, Marlene. Just get to the point. If it's an analytical, they want all the numbers. Show me all the details. I need all the numbers. That's like the engineer types, right? The amiable just wants to be loved. They just want to know that you care. So your presentation needs to be designed in a way that shows them how much you care. And then the expressive, just let them talk. I know it's painful. Just let them talk and talk and talk. Yeah, you're the best. You're awesome. Keep talking. Right? That's okay. But you have to have 4 presentation styles to adapt to the person that you're meeting with. Okay? Yeah, that's a great question. She said, hey, what if I meet with a seller and one's an engineer and one's an amiable? How do I do that, right? So go ahead. Yeah, that was yeah. So the answer is, who really is the decision maker? And in that case, it's definitely not the amiable. It's probably the driver or the analytical, right? Because the amiable, this is about personality styles. This is why most of you are reading the wrong books. Most of you need to read books on like personality styles, because what they're talking about is you would have known that the amiable is like, whatever you say, honey. Whatever he says, whatever she says, that's the amiable. The driver's like, I make the decisions in this house. It's like, oh, cool, buddy, good job. Like the ego person. So step 3, the confirmation email. So after you hang up the phone, you've asked your questions. You're going to send the seller a confirmation email, which is going to include the following. Number 1 is a link, listen closely, a link to a CMA that they can view the comparables, not a PDF. You want them to be able to look at the comps and the pictures. This is going to save you a ton of time at the presentation. Because if you send them a PDF, they probably won't look at it. You don't want to spend a whole bunch of time at the presentation going through all the comparables. Send them a link so they can obsess over the photos and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe the Smiths sold their house for so little, right? Instead of you being the bearer of bad news, let the CMA do the work for you. Next, you want to send a copy of your resume prior to the meeting. Couple things in here. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at that. For those of you who have not seen our resume, there's information in this that you want to communicate with the seller ahead of time, not at the appointment. One thing for certain that all of you don't like to answer is when you get a question from a seller that says, okay, they got their pen back, it's an amiable, this is how it looks. I'm going to show you. They get their glasses on the tip of their nose, they're like, okay, let's talk about property marketing. Look, see, everyone's getting nervous. What are you going to do to market my house? Go ahead, what's number 1? And you're like, oh, fuck, right? So it's like, because that's just a battle you're going to lose, So send the marketing plan ahead of time. Have them look at the marketing plan, have them look at your plan of action, have them look at your commission structure, have them look at as many things as possible before you have that meeting. It's going to save you a lot of time at the presentation. And it's going to help to pre-sell you to the seller before you even go to the presentation. Because when you send these things that I'm talking about, you're separating yourself from the competition, right? You're making yourself become the obvious choice. Then send a calendar invitation. Our industry, for whatever reason, is like one of the only industries that when we have a meeting with people, we don't send a calendar invite. Like, think about this for a second. Every time you guys set up, you guys are laughing, it's true. Every time you guys set up a demo with a company or you have a meeting with another professional outside of real estate, calendar invite. You meet with a realtor, it's like, maybe you're going to meet with them, maybe you won't, I don't know. Send a calendar invitation, right? Be a professional, okay? Send a calendar invitation through your email. I get questions all the time. I love you guys. It's like, how do I do that? Figure it out, okay? Get in your email, figure out. If you don't know how to send a calendar invitation, you got some work to do, okay? Yeah, ask a teenager in your house, they'll show you. Set up the seller on the MLS seller email. We talked about that before, but if you're going to take the listing, this is going to be the foundation of information that seller needs, okay? Step number 4. We're then going to add the seller on social media, and we're going to engage with the seller's last post. And here's why we're going to do that. Every single one of you only post on social media for one reason. What is it? Yeah, to get a response. To get that instant gratification. Let's get that dopamine going, right? That you're all addicted to, right? That's why you do it. If you didn't get that little red one or the little notification, social media would be out of business a long time ago. You wouldn't post shit on social media, but you can see that little red thing. It's like, oh shit, who got me? Who would they say? Do you guys are laughing? You know it's true. So why don't you give the seller the dopamine that they're addicted to, and on the other side of that little red one, it's you. Like, oh shit, I'm meeting with May this week. Look at her. She's my only comment on this little post. I like it, you know? Dude, I'm telling you, it's really, really powerful. You like that, don't you? It's really powerful. The morning of the appointment, we're going to call back the morning of the appointment. We're going to confirm, and then we're going to reference something specific in that MLS email that we sent. So we send them the email. We call back the day of the appointment. Hey, Marlene, it's Brandon with XYZ Real Estate calling to confirm our appointment tonight at 6 o'clock. Does that still work with you and your husband? Yes, it does. Okay, cool. Did you guys have a chance to look at the email I sent you? Yes, we did. There's something really specific on there. There was a house that hit the market late last night, just like yours, and they're asking a little bit more than what we planned on. Did you have a chance to look at that? Oh, no, I didn't. That'll be one of the first things we talk about when we meet, okay? You want to get them, you want to pique their curiosity about the information that you sent. Step number 5, we want to make a first great impression. We're not even to the presentation yet. We want to make a great first impression. How do we do that? We show up 15 minutes early, drive around the neighborhood. How many of you, this is the worst thing ever, happened to me, and after this happened, I said, never again, never again. Show up on time, I'm good. I'm in the driveway. I'm like, all right, reviewing my notes, reviewing my CMA, reviewing my net sheet. I'm all good to go. I go into the house, and Olga, I'm not even kidding you. The seller says, well, what do you think about the new home that's getting built over there on Main Street? I'm like, what new home on Main Street? Because I'm like, shit, I didn't know about the new construction that was going on in their neighborhood. It didn't show up on my CMA. I had no idea about it. I got caught with my pants down. That's what that's called. That's a bad scene, okay? So you don't want to get caught like that. Or what about the new school that's going up, the new school that got torn down, the new playground, the new pool, the pool getting closed up? If the seller asks you about something in their neighborhood, you need to know. Show up 15 minutes early, just do a quick drive around the neighborhood, just so that you have your bearings, and then you can bring that, Krista, to the presentation as well. To say, hey, I know you got that other home going up for sale over there on the other street. They'll be very, very impressed that you know what's going on, okay? And this is a big one for me. So it's so interesting. So we need to, when you go to an interview and you want to compel a seller to hire you, just wear a suit. Men and women, just wear a suit. There's no downside. There's no downside, right? There's only upside. There is downside without wearing the suit, right? Because you don't know how people will react, but there is no downside to dressing to impress. So just wear a suit. If you're not a suit person, it's fine. I'm not a suit person every single day, right? I'll just do business casual, but if I go to a listing appointment, it's suit and tie, no exceptions, no excuses. No exceptions, no excuses. What's that? Oh, nice dress. Yeah, ladies, nice professional dress, nice suit, absolutely. Yeah, great question. All right, so now let's talk about, so that's pre-appointment. Now let's talk about what happens when the lights go on, the listing appointment process. There's really 2 secrets, okay? And these are things that I haven't shared that openly, not because they're real secrets, but just haven't had a chance to do it until now. So number 1, your presentation has to address the following things, okay? There's 4 of them. Number 1, this is the questions every single seller is asking in their head. What is the most I can get for my home? There's not a seller out there, Joe, you know this, that says, I'm just looking, to give my house away. So, whatever I can get, I'm good. They're never going to say that. Does every seller think their house is worth more than everyone else's? Say yes. Do they all think it's nicer than any other house in the neighborhood? Say yes. Absolutely. That's what they're asking in their mind, okay? Number 2, what are you going to do to get my home sold? This is the second question that they have in their mind when they're meeting with you. Question 3, how much money am I going to put in my pocket? I asked a question in a brokerage training not too long ago, and it was amazing. I want to ask it here. How many of you, be honest, it's okay, the room's closed, I won't tell anybody. How many of you, how can I ask? Should I ask a negative or positive way? How many of you don't bring a net sheet to a listing appointment? Thank you, Joe, for being honest. All right, well, that's not bad. Okay, thank you for being honest. There's some more. Okay. They needed a little encouragement from their audience. So the thing is, that's what we're going there to do. That's what we're going there to do, is to review the numbers, okay? And then number 4, do I like you? Do I trust you? And can I respect your expertise? These are the 4 questions every single seller's asking in their mind when they're interviewing you to determine whether you're the agent for them or not. Step number 2. This is something I'm really, really excited to share. So, if you ever get to the end of your listing presentation, we talked about this morning a little bit, and the seller says this, Blake, it's been great. I like you a lot. Very confident. We're comfortable with you, but listen, we just got to think about it. We'll get back to you. How many of you love hearing that? It's the hardest thing ever, Let me think about it. Well, the problem wasn't that you don't know how to close. All of you this is another obsession we have. Like, I can't close. It's not the problem. The problem is we don't have a system that tells us whether or not that when we get to the end of the presentation, whether or not we got it or not. So watch what this looks like, okay? If you get to the end of the presentation and you ask for the business, regardless of industry, Carrie, Milner, this is for you too. You get to an end of an insurance quote and you don't know how they're going to react, well, we did a couple things wrong, okay? This is what I call the checklist system. There are key things in the presentation that if you guys hit this is where your conversion ratio will go over 90% guaranteed. Here's how it works. There's 5 checkpoints, all right? There's 5 of them. I'm going to go through all 5. As long as you hit these 5 checkpoints, you can't get to the end of the presentation and not get the listing. You'll see how this all comes together, okay? So we did another case study with these checkpoints, 5 agents, 25 listing appointments. When all 5 checkpoints were hit, over 90% of the listings were taken. When just one was missed, it dropped down to still better than the average NAR, but when they hit all 5, it went way over 90%. This is regardless of experience. So this is new agents and experienced agents, okay? So let's go through this entire process. Step 1, you walk into the house. We're going to do a home tour. Why people are giving the advice to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, go wait over there and I'll walk through the home by myself, I don't understand it. I don't understand it because this is the time where you establish some type of rapport. You establish control. You lower the anxiety, both the seller and yours. Let's be honest. How many of you are nervous when you go to a listing appointment? Say aye. Yeah, me too. It's okay. So the home tour allows you to get over those nerves, okay? You're going to take notes about the home. Bring a notepad with you so that you're taking notes about the house, specific things. Like you're looking at the tile in the ceilings, like, okay, well, there's a stain there, I got to ask about that. Maybe, what happens when there's a stain in the ceiling tile most often? What is it? Yeah, from what? Roof or the bathroom, right? So we've got to ask about that. So the seller knows that we're paying attention, okay? So we're taking notes. We're going to ask questions about whether or not they're staying in the house, or what's staying in the house, or what the seller's wanting to get rid of. What does that say in parentheses, Lee? Yeah, what does future pace mean? That's exactly right. So what this does, let me read this again so I don't go, so I know a lot of you guys are sleeping. We ate and now you guys are all tired. Stay with me here, okay? This is important. When you ask the question to the seller, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what's staying in the home and what are you looking to sell? This puts the seller in the mindset of like, okay, let me think about this. That assumes we're working together. The seller doesn't think that. The seller already got past that. They already got past the decision of hiring you. You with me on that? So now they're thinking, okay, we're already working together. What am I keeping? I can get rid of that couch. I hate that couch. I hate the chandelier. Get rid of that thing. We're going to keep the washer and dryer because, my husband loves the washer and dryer, so we're going to keep that, okay? So ask them that question on the home tour. Yeah. Yes, sir. Even better. That's even better. The question was, is it bad to position that question like, hey, are we going to leave this or are we going to sell this to an active buyer? It's even better. More assumptive language. We'll talk about that here soon too. Step 2, setting the agenda. So we went through the home tour. We went through the entire property. Now we're at the kitchen table, okay? It is mission critical to set the agenda. You cannot talk about anything else without skipping over this, all right? So when we set the agenda, you have to be confident and clear with expectations of the meeting. Go back to the script book, please, and I'm going to bring your guys' attention so you guys can follow along here. Go to page 26. All right, I need another volunteer. Who's my volunteer? Stephen Vey. All right, let's give it up for Stephen Vey. I need a mic, though. That's what I need. I need a mic. Here you go, Mr. Vey. I'm going to bring this down to you. I want you to you got your script book out? Okay. So I just want you to role play setting the agenda, number 1 only. Number 1, A, B, and C. So Stephen's the listing agent, I'm the seller, and just role play that for us.
Okay, Brandon, so there's really 3 things we'll go through today. First is how to get your home sold for the highest price, and not only the highest price, but attract buyers to pay you more than for what other homes are in the area are selling for. Second, how we ensure that you net the most money in your pocket, bottom line. And then third, after we go through my plan of action, we can discuss whether or not it makes sense for us to work together and get your home sold. Does all that sound fair?
Beautiful. Give him a round of applause. So it's absolutely, like I said, mission critical that you start off the presentation this way. Marlene, listen, thanks for having me over. There's really 3 things I want to go through with you and your husband tonight. Number 1, I want to walk you through my plan on how I plan to get your home sold for an absolute premium. I'm going to show you my tactics, my strategies on how I get buyers to overpay for homes like yours. Does that make sense so far? Then, after we go through that, I'm going to break down all the numbers so you guys can see exactly how much you're going to walk away with after the sale of the home. And then after our meeting, it's really simple. We can make a decision as to whether or not it makes sense to work together or not. Does that seem reasonable at this time? That is how you start a presentation. This is called an upfront contract. An upfront contract with the seller. That we set this expectation up front. We're both on the same page. I'm lowering the seller's anxiety. They know it's coming. It's a foreshadow. How many of you have any anxiety going through a haunted house? And drop all your egos. How many of you have a little bit of anxiety going through a haunted house? Come on, all these hands should be going up. Why do we have the anxiety going through the haunted house? We don't know what's coming. We don't know what's coming. So let me ask you guys this. If I, with all of you brave souls, said, hey, we're going to this haunted house. However, when we walk in the haunted house, here's what's going to happen. As soon as we walk in, there's going to be this scary guy. He's going to look like Stephen Vai. He's going to jump out at you. And then we're going to go to the next aisle. And we're going to turn down this way. There's going to be a guy who looks like Jason. You know who Jason is? Jason and Freddie. He's going to jump out at you. And I did this throughout the entire thing, and I told you exactly, Kim, what to expect at every single time. Would you still be scared to go through the haunted house? Be less scared, right? Here you go. Good job. What if I did the same thing, but all the lights were on? So not only did I walk you through the entire thing, Kim, all the lights were on. The haunted house business would go out of business. Would you guys agree? This is what we need to do with sellers. The sellers are anxious. There's 3 big life stresses. 1, death. 2, dealing with divorce. And yes, number 3 is selling a house. All the studies show that is number 3 on the list of human beings' top 3 stresses in their life. It is up to you as a communicator to help lower that anxiety. So at the beginning of the presentation, set the agenda. We put the seller at ease. They know what to expect. And then when we go through that script, it addresses all of those sellers' questions in their mind. Remember the 4 questions? They know exactly what to expect. They're going to get exactly what they want from the presentation, making it easier for them to hire you. Okay? All right. Step number 2. Well, we just went through that. So let's talk about step number 3, discovery. So we get through the setting of the agenda. They say, yes, that's fair. I'm totally on the same page with you. Okay, cool. Let's talk about discovery. So here's where you're going to want to dig deep and really, really understand the seller's goals, their concerns, their fears, their anxieties about selling. Okay, go back to my seller, Marlene. I say, Marlene, let me ask you, when you guys talked about moving, I know you guys are looking to move to Michigan from Hawaii, which is awesome. Not really, but maybe one day. I don't know why you would ever want to do that, but let's pretend you did. What are your biggest concerns with moving? And this is where you want the seller to do all the what? Okay? We have 2 ears, 1 mouth. The greatest gift you have as a salesperson is to what? Is to listen. But we are not very good at it. We love talking. So we want to ask the seller, what are you most concerned about? Well, we're concerned about showings, getting the dog out, getting the house ready, getting the kids out. I get it. Tell me more. Tell me more. Well, we're really concerned that we're not going to get the price that we want. I'm with you. I totally get it. Right? You want them to just spew as much of their concerns out as possible. You're going to learn a lot here. Don't interrupt the seller. Let them get through all of that as much as possible. Okay? Step 4, CMA presentation. My belief is this. My belief is that the CMA presentation, let me go back real quick. Fast. Okay. Checkpoint number 1, I almost missed it. You see that? I knew we missed it. You guys didn't hold me accountable. This is our first checkpoint in the checkpoint system, Lee. So checkpoint number 1, remember I told you there's 5 checkpoints, that if you get through all 5 checkpoints, you can't not get the listing. This is the first one. So after you set that agenda, and you say to the seller, hey, at the end of our meeting, Lee, we can then talk about whether or not it makes sense to work together. When the seller says, yes, that's fair. Yes, that's reasonable. Yes, I'm good with that. That's checkpoint 1. You could feel good about where you're at in the presentation, which you should be, because it's the very first thing out of your mouth, okay? That's checkpoint number 1. So there are no checkpoints in discovery. Now we're at step number 4, okay? CMA presentation should make up for 50 to 60% of the meeting. This is your greatest opportunity to present yourself as a real expert. All right, I'm going to walk you through the entire thing. Step number 1 in the CMA presentation is what we call selling the home 3 times. Why does a house have to sell 3 times? What's the first time it has to sell? Tell me. Buyer. Who's saying buyer? Yes. Okay. He's like, I said that. Don't worry, I got some more. I got some more. The first time a house has to sell, this is your presentation, okay? I'm giving you the script in a way that you can describe it to a seller. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when we hit the market, future pace, assume the house has to sell 3 times. You think a seller's ever heard that before? No. They're like, what does he mean? You're creating intrigue. You're creating an emotion. That's what you want. Remember the movie, right? It's not just the script. So they say, what are you talking about? They start to scoot off, to get a little closer to you. You're like, all right, I got him now. Let's hook him in. Let's hook him in. So what you want to do here is you want to explain to them. It's got to sell 3 times. Number 1, we've got to get the house on the market. We've got to find a buyer. That's sale number 1. What's sale number 2? Look at all of them now. There you go. Jeez. All right. You got to get through an inspection. We got to sell this house to an inspector. And then what's sale number 3? Boom. I knew it. The appraisal. So these are all 3. Good. You guys are good students. Good job. These are all 3 massive milestones that we have to explain to the seller to help lower their what? Their anxiety. Say, wow, that makes sense. No one's ever explained it to me this way. When they say that to you, you're like, okay, I'm on track. This is working. That's step number 1 of the CMA presentation. Step number 2 is what we call the market snapshot. This is not your CMA. This is a 1-page document that outlines just their neighborhood with how many homes are for sale, how many are under contract, how many have sold in the last 90 days, the average days on market, and the list to sold price ratio. Okay? This is what's on the market snapshot. So you can tell the seller, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, this is what's happening in Willow Springs specifically. Okay? It's a 1-page document. Step number 3 is now the days on market presentation. Okay? This is where you have to become a great actor. This is where you have to be great at storytelling. Telling is not, good job. Telling is not selling. We have to create a story using the Socratic method to get the seller to come to their own conclusion on their own without who getting in the way? Us. Let them come to their own conclusion by telling a story. Now, most of you are like, okay, what are you talking about? Tell me. Now I got to tell you. I'm just kidding. So here's how it works. The days on market presentation works like this, okay? When you're meeting with a seller, we have to get them to understand the importance of pricing a property correctly on what day? Day 1. Okay? What do sellers want to actually do? They want to, who said overprice? Yeah. Oh, good job, Krista. Krista was an appraiser, so she sees this all the time. So here it comes. Ready? It's coming in hot. Boom, nice catch. Okay, we are trying to get the seller to price it right from day 1 because we know that's what's best for them. Every single seller wants to overprice it every single time. Well, what's more powerful? Us telling them, no, you need to do this because I'm an expert and you don't know this. You only do this 2-3 times a year or in a lifetime. It's not going to work that well. We got to get them to come to their own conclusion. Here's how you do it. You say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it's absolutely critical that we price the property correctly from day 1. And I want to share with you why. Let's pretend for a second, Joe. Joe, you know this presentation quite well, I would assume at this point. Yeah? Am I right? Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's pretend for a second you're the buyer of the home. And this property, we listed it at $300,000. And on day 1, you walk through the home with me, you turn back around and you say, Brandon, we love this house. We have to have this house. What do I have to do to get this house? What type of offer must the buyer put forth? A strong or a weak? A strong offer. Why? Yeah, the seller's not going to look at any weak offer day 1 on the market. Would you guys agree? Yes. Okay, good. So the seller says, okay, that makes sense. I would be willing to put forth a great offer. Now, let's pretend, Mr. Seller, put your buyer hat back on. Let's pretend now you go through the same home. You guys fall in love with the house all over again. But it's not on the market for 1 day. It's on the market for 97 days. Where all the other homes in the neighborhood are selling within 2 weeks, this one's on the market for 97 days. Now, what type of offer can the buyer write? Lowball, right? And so now the question is this. Selling is a series of asking questions. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have a question for you. Which seller would you rather be? And what do you guys think the seller says every single time? I want to be the day 1 seller. What do you think we need to do? Well, we need to price it right from day 1. Ding, 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 ding. And you're like, wow, this is like magic. This is called the Socratic method. We're getting people to come up with their own ideas by asking them questions. You guys with me on that? All right, cool. Step number 4, price bracketing presentation. Okay, I'm not going to get into this too deep because the analyticals will keep us up here for 7.5 hours. Well, what about this and what about that? You didn't talk about this. Price bracketing is pretty simple, okay? It's pretty simple. What we really want to do is when we price property, we have to look at a couple of things. When a buyer looks for homes online, do they search for homes in odd numbers or even numbers? Like there's no search. Well, let me just ask the Zillow guys. Hey, Natter. I'm just kidding. But you don't go to Zillow and you search for homes and you type in, I want to look at homes in Rochester, Michigan for $166,744 to $222. You don't do that. You're looking at houses from $200,000 to $250,000. And every single search portal is the exact same, including your MLS. You guys agree? Say yes. Okay. Well, if that's the case, why is it that we miss that when we list property? Why is it that all of you list property at $199,000? Why? You're killing the seller. Well, what's he talking about? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Wouldn't it make more sense that instead of listing the property at $199,000, which would be in one bracket, Kim, $150,000 to $200, that makes sense, right? The buyers show up in that price bracket of $199,000. What if you price the property at $200,000 even? Now you show up in the bracket of $150,000 to $200,000, and oh, by the way, the next bracket, $200,000 to $250,000. By pricing at $100 difference, you got twice the amount of exposure for your seller by changing the price by $100. Did you get it? Stop pricing property like that. Think about how do buyers, look at the analyticals. Oh, no, we missed this. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Yeah, so you nailed it. So here are the brackets. Great question. So that was just an example. Here are the actual brackets. 25, 50, 75, 100. Those are the major brackets that you focus on, to your point. So my recommendation is that you don't list property that is at the 25,000, 50,000, 75, or 100 that ends in a 99. So you never list a property, Kim, at 124,900. You list it at what? 125, because we want the seller to get the exposure from the bracket above that one. Make sense? You get the seller double the amount of exposure, you look like an absolute hero. It's like, man, I don't know why the other bozos aren't doing this. I learned this at some dumb conference with Brandon. So hopefully that makes sense, okay? So that's price bracketing. You go through that presentation with the seller, and the seller says, holy shit, that makes a lot of sense. I've never heard that before, okay? Step number 5, the active listing analysis. This is the part that's critical why the seller has to look at the CMA prior to your meeting. And in that confirmation email, you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, can you do me a favor? Can you review this prior to our meeting? Because you want them to have looked at these active listings before you went to the appointment. Now, when we get to this page at the presentation, they're familiar with all of them. Now we have to go through all of the active listings, okay? Being objective and say, okay, these are our competition. Whether you like it or not, when we hit the market, we're going to compete with all of these homes. Yes or yes? Yes. It would make sense that we look and see what is our competition doing. If we were going to open a store, all of us would say, okay, well, before we open the store, let's go look what the competition's doing, right? Let's get an idea. This is what we're doing here. You're looking at all of the active listings with the seller and how that house compares to the seller to get an idea of where we need to be priced at, okay? Step number 6 is the pending listing analysis. This is the thing that Zillow cannot compete with you guys on because they don't have the pending data that you guys have. And the pending data, well, here's my opinion. I don't know who agrees with me or not, but I believe pending data is the most critical information with pricing property right now. Is there anybody that agrees with me on that? Okay, somebody, Lee, tell me why. That's right, good job. So what he said, and I'll tell you essentially what he said. He said, it's the only data that we have right now in real time that tells us two things: what buyers are willing to pay and what sellers are willing to take right now. Actives they don't do that, does it? That only tells us how much the sellers are asking for, not what they're willing to take. Is it often that sellers ask one price and accept another price? All the time, right? Sold data, historical data, that's in the past. The pending data, in my opinion, right now, gives us the best opportunity to price property. Okay, yes. Yeah, so the question is, well, in my market, pendings don't tell us how much the price is. Either it's not like that here either. You can't tell. All we can tell on that pending data is what their asking price was, how long it took them to get an offer. That's what we're really looking at. We're making some assumptions there. But we know if a house went pending in 2 or 3 days at X asking price, it's likely that they got close to that asking price. So we look at, with the seller, we say, okay, let's look at this house. Let's look at the photos. Let's look at the location, and let's look at the price. We know the buyers love that. They were like on that like flies on you know what, right? So that gives us a lot of great information, okay? All right, step 7 is the sold listing analysis. This is probably how you guys were all taught. So we're just looking at historical data. What is the difference? And Krista, you cannot answer this question. Any appraisers, you cannot answer this. What is the difference between what you guys do, what we do with our CMA, and what appraisers do? What's the difference between the analysis? What is that? That's right. They only do sold. They only do historical data. That's why the appraisers sometimes don't agree with you. They have a difference of opinion because they're looking at data from the past. Okay? They're not looking at any other data, right? So that's the difference with our analysis. And when I price property in a seller's market like this, that's why we're taking into consideration so much actives and pendings. Like we didn't do that 10 years ago, right? So that's why these are so important right now. And then step 8 is the active buyer presentation. Okay, this is really, really critical that I rarely see agents do. If you have a listing in the area in which you're going to interview to take another listing, you can go into your MLS. How many are familiar with how reverse prospecting works in the MLS? Okay, how many of you are bringing a list of active buyers to your listing appointment? Good. I mean, this is absolutely so powerful. Imagine a world you show up to a listing appointment and you go through this entire thing, and then out of your back pocket, well, not really, out of your folder, you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's a list of all the active buyers in your marketplace right now that are approved to buy your house. The first thing I'm going to do, assuming we work together, is I'm going to go contact all these people. Like, can I see that list? Nope, you can't see that list. It's my list, right? But imagine you can do that. Well, the technology that we have allows us to do this. If you don't have a listing in that area, you can go to your company and say, hey, who has a listing in downtown city? Okay? Grab and see if that agent will do the reverse prospecting list for you. And most of the time, they'll be happy to do it. Okay? So that's a really, really powerful tool. Step number 9 is then your price recommendation, and then you gain agreement. Now, here's what I do. Right or wrong, good or bad, here's what I believe, and I operate from this belief. How many times have, in your real estate transactions, and collectively there's probably thousands in this room right now, how many times have you heard of this? You order an appraisal, the appraiser, whoa, that was loud. The appraiser shows up at the house during the appraisal with the appraisal report and hands it to the seller. How many times has that ever happened in your careers? Zero. Starts with a 0. 0 times. How many times, watch this, do all y'all go to a listing appointment and hand a seller the price of their home? Every time. Isn't that weird? You guys with me? Did I lose you on that? How many of you come to a listing appointment and give the seller the price on the first appointment? Raise your hand. I'm shocked. Come on. Every single one of you. Really? I feel better about this now. So at a listing appointment, the seller says, hey, how much would you list your home for? You guys don't tell them? That's freaking phenomenal. Okay, good. We're totally on the same page. So I see so many agents doing that. I can't believe that you guys aren't, which is a good thing. I don't get stuck giving a price at the listing appointment. I give them a tight range, and just like an appraiser, I buy myself 24 to 48 hours to give them my final list price recommendation. Yes, sir. Yes, I do. We're going to talk about that in a second. Yes. That's what he just asked too. So the seller net sheet, we're going to get to that in just a second. I show 3 options, which we're going to talk about in just a second. So you guys do give prices. You guys were lying them before. I think I confused you guys. Okay, we did. What I asked you was how much of the time when you go to a listing appointment do you recommend a list price? Okay, thank you. 10 out of, I was like, damn, this room really gets it. All of you, right? Raise your hands. Like, hi, how many of you do that? Everybody. Okay, cool. What I'm saying is the appraisers never have done that in the history of the world. Never, not once. You guys do it every time. How is that possible? So what I'm suggesting or what I'm recommending is that when you go to a listing appointment, you're able to present a range, but don't get caught in giving them an actual price, because how often is it that you're going to an appointment, you think the house has not a finished basement, and you show up, it's like, holy shit, look what they did in the basement, because you didn't have the data. Does that impact the value? Yes or yes? Happens all the time. How can you give an accurate price when you haven't even walked through the home when you don't have all the data? That's my belief, okay? So I don't like giving prices at the listing presentation. I like giving a range. All right, step number 4. So we're in step number 4. Here's checkpoint number 2, okay? If you get the seller to agree to price, that's the second checkpoint, right? So you tell Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, based on the data, I recommend the home, or the data suggests that the home's going to sell for between $220,000 and $230,000, right? Right in that range, and you wouldn't give a tight range like that. You might say $230,000 to $250,000 as a range. And if they say, yeah, that makes sense, okay, great. I'm past checkpoint number 2. If they say, nope, Kevin, I totally disagree with you. All right, well, we got a problem, right? We got a problem. Yep, back up. Let's hit the brakes. Let's talk about it. But this is checkpoint number 2. Let's talk about step 5 in the presentation, the value proposition. Huge, huge opportunity and issue for this industry. So here are the components of what I call the value equation that ends up being the value you offer to your clients. We have to do 2 things at the same time. We have to increase the certainty that the seller has that you are the right agent, and at the same time, decrease their risk in hiring you as their agent. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. This is what I call the value ladder. The further those 2 things are apart, the more certainty and the lower risk, the further those are apart, the more value you're delivering. If you're giving very little certainty that you're the right agent to get the job done, and they have a lot of risk in hiring you, and we'll talk about reasons why, you know the value that you're offering isn't very much. Okay, I'm going to explain this in just a second. I know a lot of you are giving me like the crooked eye thing, like, what's he talking about? Yeah, absolutely. So let me say this one more time. So the value equation is this. So when you think to yourself, okay, we talked about this when we had the panel. How do I provide value at a listing appointment? Most agents look at that as a commodity. Well, we offer open houses. We do this. We do that. We do this. Sound familiar, right? You probably all are victims of that, okay? Are all guilty of that. The second you start doing that, you become a commodity in the eyes of the seller. Because the second you say that, you're telling the seller, okay, I can shop that against your competitors to see what they offer, right? But value, watch this. Value is a perception. Can you measure value? How? Measure it. Some kind of something was her answer. That's my point exactly. Value is a perception, and it's in the eyes of the beholder. They get to determine how much value you're providing. It's hard to quantify. How much value am I giving you right now? Go ahead. I'm giving my calculator. All right, go. It's hard to quantify. It's hard to quantify. It's a perception. So the 2 key components to strengthening the perception the seller has of you is we have to increase their certainty that you're the right agent. This will make sense in a second. And we have to decrease their risk. Okay, let me give you an example. So when we look at this, okay, it's got to follow. These are the questions your value proposition has to answer. This will make a lot more sense. Number one, how does my value proposition make me different from other agents in the market? How does it make me different? Most agents, I'm telling you right now, when you say, hey, let me ask you a question. Olga, why would I hire you over all these other agents? Most agents get real scared of that question. And if they try to answer it, it's something like this. Well, because I give great client service. Do any of you give bad client service? It's not different. That's not a value proposition. Well, I really care about my clients. Do any of you hate your clients? Well, some of you might do, but don't answer that. The point is, most of the time when agents try to explain their value proposition, why I should hire you versus you, what you tell me, right, doesn't create that certainty. It doesn't decrease the risk. Why? Because question number one says, how does it make you different from her? If you tell me the same thing she tells me, there's no value. You with me? Question number two, how does my value proposition increase that perceived value, okay, that I'm the right person for them to hire? Number three, how does my value proposition decrease their perceived risk that the seller may have when hiring me? When I say that to you guys, and you're asking, what does he mean when he's saying that? What is the risk a seller has in hiring a realtor? Who said that? Yes. How many of these have you gotten today? None? Okay, good job. He said that the house doesn't sell. I don't know that what you told me is going to get this property sold. Okay, what's another one? You won't do the job, kind of the same, little bit of the same thing. You won't what? Okay, so the risk might be like, hey, if you don't do your job, I'm stuck in this long-term contract, and now I'm stuck. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, good job. That's a good one. All right, so these are some examples of some risk the seller takes when they're hiring you guys. What's the number one complaint in our industry that sellers have about realtors? Boom. I can't give all you guys t-shirts. So there we go. It's lack of, oh, come on. It's lack of communication. That's the number one complaint consumers have with realtors is everything you told me when we first met was all bullshit. After we left and after I signed this contract, you didn't do shit you said you were going to do. That is their number one complaint, okay? So it's very risky for a seller to hire you based off of your word because all the studies show you guys are all full of shit, right? So they have a lot of risk. They don't know if you're going to follow through, okay? Question number 4, how does my value proposition become irresistible to the seller? You have to be able to ask that question. We're going to talk about how in a second. And then number 5, how does my value proposition clearly position me as the obvious choice? You got to ask yourself these 5 questions when you're delivering your value proposition to a seller. Oh, you guys want me to go back? Yeah. Go ahead. You guys want to take a picture of that? I'll get some water because my voice is going out. Brad, you get a picture of that? You guys good? All right. Okay, so let me give you some examples outside of the real estate industry that will get your minds going. You say, oh, okay, now I kind of get what he's saying. Best Buy. We price match guarantee. We won't be beat on price. This is what they say on their website. When they created their value statement or their value proposition, they wanted to increase the certainty that all you had to go shop at Best Buy. We got to increase the certainty. Got to go Best Buy, Circuit City. Look at Circuit City. They're fucking out of business, right? So Best Buy was more certain. Why? Lower risk, higher certainty. We won't be beat on price, period. You're going to buy an Apple? We'll beat the price. We got to get you more certainty that Best Buy is the best place by increasing certainty, decreasing risk. You guys with me on that? They got to say, okay, if you go shop somewhere else, it's more risky than coming here. Boston market, I love this. The reason I laugh is because I talk about this a lot in our coaching calls. It's like my favorite on-the-go fast food type of place. Why? Someone read their value proposition out loud. Beautiful value proposition. Oh, that was a bad throw. So that's why I like Boston Market so much. Our chicken is free from hormones. Awesome, I love it. Okay, freshly roasted on the hour, every hour served fresh. So if I'm on the road and I don't have time to make a lunch and I see a Boston Market, I'm like, I'm going to Boston Market. They've increased my certainty that I get a good chicken, right? And lower the risk of eating crap. I mean, I love it. I love Boston Market's value prop. Let's talk about Costco, one of everyone's favorites of all time. We love, who in here loves Costco? Yes, I love Costco. We guarantee your satisfaction of every product we sell. If you're not, listen to this, we will refund you your full membership fee at any time. I love it. They never ask you questions. If something's going wrong with your food, you just go right, they don't even ask you. Yeah, no problem, here's your money. It's amazing. This is probably the best one, I think. Just kidding. Red Wing shoes. Do you guys have those outside of Michigan? All right, Hawaii, you guys got them, so that's good. This is super strong. We give customers, this is insane. I love this. We give customers 30 days to break in a pair of shoes and return them for whatever reason, no questions asked for a full refund. Incredible value proposition. You talk about increasing, what other thing can you think of? It's like, hey, you can buy the shoe, you can have it, here you go. Try it for the next month, and if you don't like it, I'll give you all your money back. Dude, it's incredible. Do you have any worry about buying the shoe at all? Hell no. It's none, zero. That is a very strong value proposition. You guys agree? Say yes. I mean, that's phenomenal. Good for you, Red Wing shoes. Okay, here's some examples for you guys to use, okay? Back this up. You guys dying on me? Do we need to do a whoa clap? We're going to do a whoa clap. Everybody stand up. I'm going to show you what a whoa clap is. Stand up. You guys are dying on me. I need some energy. Look at my DJ sleeping. Look at it. Wake up, bro. There he is, back. Hey, I need a little beat. Here's how a whoa clap works, okay? So I'm going to start clapping my hands, and I'm going to go slow. And on the clap, I want you guys to say whoa, okay? So we're going to start slow. Whoa, 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 whoa! That's called a whoa clap. Have your seats. You guys feel better now? Motion creates emotion. There we go. You guys are all falling asleep on me. So here's some examples for you guys to use inside of our industry. And no, I do not want to debate any of these with you today. If you want to debate this, we can do it over a beer tonight. Fair enough? No, well, I don't want to hear any of that. Fair enough? Number one, no long-term listing contracts. Cancel at any time for any reason. But Brandon, I don't want to hear it. I appreciate it. You don't have to offer any of these. These are just examples. Number two, flexible commissions. But, no, I already told you. These are just examples, okay? I want you to get your mind going. 3, savvy seller. You'll have the right to sell your home on your own even while it's listed with me. Say what? Yeah. Communication guarantee. I guarantee to communicate with you at least once a week, Kevin, or I'll pay your commission. Ooh, Kevin liked that one. If I don't sell your home in 30 days, I'll sell it for free. Pretty vulnerable or pretty aggressive, right? Realtors are like, shit, I'm never offering that. If I don't sell your home in 30 days, I'll buy it. What do you think? Pretty enticing, right? Become irresistible to the seller. I'm not saying you should use these. I'm just giving you examples. These are used every single day in your industry. This is what all your competitors are using against you. So if these scare you, like, holy shit, I would never offer that. Your competitors are. The top teams in the country offer all of these. The top teams in the country is how they're buying houses from Zillow, beating them on iBuyer, because they're going into every listing presentation. What is the last bullet? It's an iBuyer. So all of you that want to, they're like, what is he talking about? You guys, listen. The bottom one here is this is how these people are offering this. This is how we've been doing this for almost 2 decades. We go to a listing appointment, Marlene, this is how we do it. And we say, hey, we're going to give you 2 prices. We're going to give you the price that we're willing to pay today, wholesale, and we'll give you a list price for retail. You get to decide. At any time you're done with this, we'll give you this price. That's how that works, right? So anyway, that's a whole nother seminar on that strategy. But my point is this. What value are you giving the seller? Is it compelling enough to get them to react the way you guys reacted in this seminar? Like, whoo, you do what? You're willing to do that? That's what you want the seller to say. Yes, I am. This is how confident I am in my abilities to sell your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. No other agent's willing to do this. Yeah, I know. Yes, I know. That's how you respond to that. Yes, I know. Right? Yes. What's that? Yeah, Zillow's not buying houses anymore. They bought enough now. They said that we're done with that. That's true, by the way. Yeah. All right, so let's keep moving forward. Checkpoint number 3. Okay, this is the 3rd checkpoint. You got to get this dialed in so that you have a higher likelihood of getting the listing. So after you go through the value proposition, whatever it is that you do or whatever it is that you offer, you gain the seller's agreement around the offer. Okay, so whatever you offer them, you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, based on everything we just talked about, does all of that seem reasonable? Does all of that seem fair to you? Well, yes, Brandon, that's phenomenal. Okay, beautiful. Any questions so far? Nope. They say, nope, we're good to go. Oh, and you're like, okay, I'm through checkpoint number 3. You're almost there, okay? So let's keep rocking and rolling. Step number 6, here's the net sheet for all my analyticals. What about the net sheet, Brandon? You didn't talk about that. I got you right now. Okay, bring net sheets to a listing appointment. That's why you're there. It'd be like, Carrie Milner, it'd be like you going to give an insurance quote, but you never give the quote. It's like, isn't that what we're here to do? You're like, well, yeah, but I didn't bring the quote with me. Like, what do you mean? Like an insurance agent goes to a meeting to quote you on a new homeowner's policy with a new premium, and the homeowner's agent doesn't bring the premium. That's what you guys do when you don't bring the net sheet to a listing appointment. You get it? Okay. Here's how this goes. Well, I just talked about that. Okay? Present 3 options. Okay? You want to give 3 options. You want to give, and here's what you want to include. Let me go back, whoops. The high price, a price that you think is high, it's most likely the seller's price. The price that it's most likely going to sell for, Stephen, this is your price. And then a low price, okay? You want to show them all 3 on the net sheet. And then you also want to include all the costs of selling a home. The mortgage payoff, the title premium, the title cost, the transfer tax, real estate commissions, and we're not going to include tax prorations, and I'm going to tell you why. I like to create a real worst case scenario situation at the listing presentation and gain agreement around the worst numbers happening. Because if I present you with the worst case scenario numbers and you can live with those numbers, like I'm in business. Not only can I set a great expectation, I can sleep peacefully at night, knowing that, okay, I'm in good shape here because I didn't even include tax prorations. Who in here can explain tax prorations? Nobody. Okay, I'm just kidding. Yeah. All it is a repayment of the, you guys are so funny. Oh, we might need to do some contracts class or something. All right, so tax prorations, right? It's like taxes they get paid back on the home that they've already paid by the buyer. I like to leave that off because when I present that real seller net sheet a day before closing, hint, hint, show your clients the seller proceeds a day before closing so you don't walk into any fires. Then they see the refund of the taxes. They're like, holy shit, this is more than you told me at the listing appointment. Now you're an absolute hero instead of the other way around, right? Okay, so leave this off so that you can present an actual worst case scenario number. And here's the deal. Here's what you do, okay? This is the next checkpoint. This is vital. So after you present the numbers, you circle the net number in the middle, the one that you think is most likely, and you look the seller directly in the eyes, circle the number, and you say, Mr. Vay, Mrs. Vay. I had to. There you go, thank you. can you guys live with this number knowing it's worst case scenario? And you don't say a word until they answer. And if they say, this is how it goes, ready? You say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, can you live with this number, worst case scenario? They look at each other and they go, yeah, I can live with that. You're like, bingo, bango. That's what you want, okay? And this is the next checkpoint. Checkpoint number 4. When you gain their agreement around how much their home is going to sell for, you already talked about that, right? You gained agreement around all of the terms of the agreement. Now you've gained their agreement on what they're going to put in their pocket. Worst case scenario, you're through 4 of the 5 checkpoints, okay? Let's get into step number 7, the plan of action. So now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'd like to walk you through what happens next. Assuming you and I think it makes sense to move forward, let me walk you through what happens next. So you're going to walk the seller through your process. And every single one of you should have a different process. That process can be part of your value proposition. Okay? So if you do a pre-listing inspection every time, that can be part of your value proposition. If you do a pre-listing appraisal, that could be part of your value prop. If you do a pre-listing, Stacy will like this, pre-listing home warranty check, that could be part of the plan of action. Here's what I recommend, okay? So you're going to want to go through getting the home ready for a professional photo shoot. Explain to the seller how that process works, okay? Next, you want to talk about preparing the home to get onto the MLS. Never list a house without the seller signing the MLS listing first. You like that, right? You guys agree? That's what you guys do in Myrtle Beach? Yeah, good. Okay, did you guys all catch that? Before you list a home, send the listing to the seller. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, review the listing. Let me know if there's any changes that need to be made. This is an operational thing. Get them to sign off on it. You with me on that? Then you don't have to run this mistake. You list it. Brandon, we have a problem. I just saw my home on Zillow. And what the fuck? We have a finished basement. I was like, oh, Jesus, you know? So you get out of that. So you got to get the listing to them. Okay, you guys all know it's true. Sellers are yellers, right? You all heard that before. So get the listing to the seller. Okay? Next, so you want to walk them through what does it mean going live on the market? What's going to occur? Explain to the seller what's going to happen. Then you want to get your showing schedule and how that showing process works. Walk them through the app. Get them to download the app. Okay? Schedule a showing yourself. Another little operational trick. Schedule the first showing so they can get used to the notification on their phone. They can approve it, decline it. You want to get used to that. Walk them through the offer process. Okay? What are we doing this entire time? We're doing 2 things are happening. Yes, who said that? Good job. We're lowering anxiety, and what's the second thing? Increasing confidence for sure. But we're future pacing. We're assuming the sale. So next, what we're going to do, Mrs. Seller, what we're going to do next is this. Then we're going to do this. And then we're going to do this. I'm giving you a picture. I'm walking you through the haunted house so that you can say, okay, I can visualize. You're not saying this in your mind consciously, but what I'm doing is I'm giving you a picture of what it's like for you and I to work together, right? Before you've agreed to do so, okay? So I'm walking them through the offer process. Here's what's going to happen when we get an offer. Then walk them through the pending process. So once we go under contract, this is what's going to occur. You can walk them through that buyer inspection period, all of that. Walk them through the closing process as well, okay? Checkpoint number 5, huge, huge little trick. I love this a lot. If you get this, you are home freely. If you schedule the date for the photos, it's done. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, how soon do you think you can get the home ready for photos? Honey, what do you think? I don't know, you're a big pig. You know, so like they go back and forth. They do that, and then they say, about a week. All right, cool. So if we tentatively schedule photos with windowsill, give them a big shout out. There you go. Come on, give them a little bit more love than that. So we tentatively schedule the photo shoot for next Sunday at 3 o'clock. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, will that time work for you tentatively? I'll go ahead and reach out to Brad and his team, make sure that works. Yeah, Brandon, you know what? I think that's going to work. you're like, this is mine. You've already scheduled the photo shoot before they've agreed to do business with you. Yeah, checkpoint, I'll go back for you. Checkpoint 4 is after your, so you guys. Yeah, so your net sheet. Right there. Got it? Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the next step. Step 8, asking for the listing. Okay, you get in life what you have the courage to ask for. And remember, if you have a problem closing the sale, it's because you have a problem opening the sale. That's the reason. You missed all 5 checkpoints. But the closing shouldn't be this huge, dramatic thing like, all right, here we go. This is my big closing moment. I'm going to wind up for this pitch. Here we go. And the seller's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you trying to close me? What are you selling here? It should be very, very simple because you went through this entire process. You met all 5 checklists. All right? So, all you have to do is simply use this script. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you've answered all my questions at this point. I feel 100% confident that I can get the home sold. Do you have any questions for me, or are you ready to get started and put me to work? Okay? Let's all read it together. 1, 2, 3. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you've answered all my questions at this point. I feel 100% confident that I can get your home sold. Do you have any questions for me, or are you ready to get started and put me to work? That is how we ask for the business. Can't get any more clear than that. Make sense? Okay. So, after you do that, you're going to walk the client through what we call our new seller intake form. All of you should have a part of your process. When you go see a dentist, when you go see a doctor, you got to fill out those damn forms. We don't have to have that many, but trust me, this will help to protect your client experience. Because let's look at what Nina said earlier. If you only had one client and determining on how you treated that client would determine if your business grew or not, what is the service you're giving your seller? These intake forms will help you guys out a lot, okay? So, this is what you want to get. You want to get, obviously, your contractor disclosures, your personal property addendum. What is included with the sale? What is not? And don't forget the curtains. Jeez, sellers go crazy about the damn curtains, okay? What is the seller leaving? What goes with the sale of the home? What is excluded from the sale? Okay, next. What do you love, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, about the home that you think other buyers would love? Have them write this up for you. What are we doing here? This is going to help us do what? Write the description, right? Get a list of updates and features. Who knows the house better than the seller? Starts with nobody. Nobody. Nobody knows the home better than the seller. Have the seller tell you, here's all the updates that we've done. We've done the roof, we've done the windows, we've done this. And you just get a huge laundry list of those things. Get the HOA information. Get it up front. Title company, do you like when we get the HOA up front or behind? Yeah, Julie says, now. Get it to me now. Don't wait. Key moment in this seminar, or whatever you want to call what we're doing. Weekly update schedule. Talk to the seller right here. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, one of the things we talked a lot about today is our ability to have open lines of communication, proactive communication. You can expect to hear from me every fill in the blank. You and the seller agree to a phone conversation. If you don't take anything else from this conference, take this away. If you ever have a seller that shoots you a text message or sends you a voicemail and it sounds like this, hey, this is the seller over on Main Street. We're just looking for an update. You failed. And so if you have to look yourself in the eyes and say, holy shit, that happens a lot to me. You're failing. It happened to me a lot. Because you're not communicating proactively to the seller. You don't have a system. You haven't set expectation. The seller doesn't know when they can expect to hear from you. Who is that on? Yeah, it's on us. That's our fault. We own the communication. They are the employer. You are the what? Employee. Okay? You owe them communication. Okay? And then you want to confirm the next steps. In most cases, it's going to be photos. Okay? So, a couple key points, takeaway in the listing appointment process. Master one part of this at a time. I just threw a whole bunch of stuff at you. Don't leave this conference and say, all right, let me go practice all 19 steps. No, do one thing at a time. Okay? Master that CMA presentation. I would put that at the top of your priority list and get really, really good at being able to present that CMA. Number 2, which you guys all hate, record your listing presentation on video at least once a month. Because here's some hard truth. Can you guys take it? I bet you guys can. Here's real hard truth. If we brought most of you up here on stage and we put a camera on you and you role-played your listing presentation and you look back and you watched it, would you be proud? Be pretty tough. Maybe some of you would, but for the most of you, if you're being honest, and you watched it, you'd cringe. This is what the sellers see. You know? It's what your clients are seeing. You're practicing on your clients all the time. How many of you have your listing presentation on camera right now? Be honest. Kevin, good job. That's it. 1. But you're practicing on your clients. It's not fair. Get your presentation on camera so you can say, okay, that's a 30,000-foot view. Let's see what the seller's saying. Oh my God, I sound like a complete idiot. You know? Well, yeah, you do. Maybe that's why you don't get any listings. Shit. We got to work on this, okay? Record it every month so you can see yourself getting better, okay? I promise you, as uncomfortable as that would be, it's going to help you a lot. All right, so before we get into our 2022 business plan, we're going to do a quick 5-minute break, okay? Use the restrooms, come back. We'll give you guys a little warning, but let's take a little breather, all right? We'll see you guys in 5.